it's like a Hiroshima bomb going off in your life. There's no part of you that is not going to be affected by this.
Genelle Aldred was just 19 years old when her daughter Sade Rose was stillborn at 40 weeks and 10 days. She's now helping to break the silence around baby loss by becoming an ambassador for SANDS, the stillbirth and neonatal death charity. Genelle's loss was brought on by not being listened to by healthcare professionals and compounded by poor care.
She did the scan and she just said to me, "I'm really sorry, there's no heartbeat." It was just the most surreal moment, because in that moment, although I didn't know what stillbirth was, I knew exactly what she meant, and it was just, I think I nearly fell off the bed.
Every day in the UK, around 14 babies die before, during or soon after birth. That means that almost every 2 hours a family is faced with the devastation of losing a baby. These babies are remembered during Baby Loss Awareness Week from the 9th to the 15th of October. Now Genelle is working with SANDS and advocating for black parents. Stillbirth rates for black and black British babies are twice as high as those for white babies, and up to 30% of these stillbirths could have been avoided if they had had the same odds as white women. I spoke to Genelle about why the statistics for black women in stillbirth are so shocking.
I think we just all need to have this realistic and honest conversation about the fact that people bring their biases to work. I don't think anyone turns up to work on any day thinking that they're going to be part of someone's heartbreaking story of baby loss. But the reality is that often, women of colour, the stats show, not listened to around things that they are struggling with or feeling unwell and not taken seriously. And I think that leads to what we see. It's a lack of care. And I think if you look at probably any rates around things that go outside of the kind of ideal family, quote unquote, narrative, I think you will find that there are those biases. And why I say we need to have an honest conversation, not that we're saying people are bad people, we're not saying people are racist, we're not saying people are homophobic, we're not all of those things. But what we are saying is that healthcare professionals need to recognise that bias does live within them, and that will affect their decision making. And they should be looking at that and keeping a close eye on that to ensure that it's not part of their decision making. They're consciously keeping an eye out for it, because stats don't lie. And so if the stats are higher, there's a reason for that, and that needs to be looked into.
Midwife, hypnobirther and founder of the maternity house, Karine Robson, told me women not being listened to is a major part of the reason behind the disparities.
Well, I think it's the same as the 5 times campaign, that black women are 5 times more likely also to die throughout pregnancy and the first 6 weeks after they've had the baby. And I just think it's not listened to. There's not enough advocates for black women. And I think we need to get away. I mean, we all say BAME. And I think, we need to speak about black women because they are a high statistic. BAME, you're putting all the different ethnicities apart from white into one bracket. But if you break it down into the different ethnicities, it's black women that are at the higher risk.
Charities like SANDS are now calling on everyone to help reduce the feelings of isolation around baby loss by sharing their experiences and showing their support for those that have experienced the loss of a baby, whether or not they have been directly affected themselves. The effect of social distancing from COVID-19 has had a major impact on care and support and complicated responses to pregnancy and baby loss. Partners may not have been able to be allowed at pregnancy and maternity appointments or even at the birth itself.
Having someone there with you is so important, and it's not always your partner, because not everyone is with their partners or with the father of the baby, but just having someone there with you, because there are things that, you're going through a life-changing experience. To have to go through that on your own, and we know that maternity is under pressure, so you're not always going to have a midwife in there with you 24/7. Yes, when you're in labour and you're giving birth, someone's going to be with you, but after those initial hours after, or those hours before while you're labouring, to be on your own, it's really scary. It's a really scary place, and I really feel for women.
Genelle is also passionate about helping others find their way through grief. She also wants to help people think about how they can be advocates for mums during pregnancy and especially labour.
So for me, I think the things I'd be saying to a Black mother is name it. We need to talk about advocacy and we need people to be advocates for us. I think there's something about going along to an appointment with somebody else and saying this person is going to be advocating for me, especially when it comes to coming up with a birthing plan, coming up with your labour plan, to say this person's going to be an advocate because of these stats, because I'm concerned. And I think healthcare professionals need to not get defensive and to understand that the stats don't lie. And so there is a justified reason for people wanting better advocacy for themselves. And so I think it's about arming all parents with that confidence that this is your child. You know, as when it happened to me, you know, the midwives, they're going to forget my name and they're going to forget about me, but I'm not going to forget because it's my life. And so I live with it.
Baby Loss Awareness Week helps raise awareness of how pregnancy and baby loss affects thousands of people each year across the UK. It's a unique opportunity to help people commemorate their babies, whether it be in public or private, and to feel less isolated and alone by giving them the opportunity to join with others and share the burden of what can be a devastating loss. Afia Adom, Arise News.